Today I'm going to talk about cartoons, fairy tales, witchcraft, and Satanic Freemasonry. Cartoons, fairy tales, and witchcraft, and Satanic Freemasonry. Okay, before I get to the scriptures, I'm going to read about Walt Disney and Madame de Arnay. These are the two people that kind of created all this. Okay, Walt Elias Disney, born December 5th, 1901, died December 15, 1996. I think I see that's what it is. Burbank, California. Okay, he was born in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, was an American entrepreneur, animator, writer, voice actor, and film producer. Pioneer of the American animation industry. He introduced several developments in the production of cartoons, and as a film producer, he holds the record for most Academy Awards earned by an individual, having won 22 Oscars from animations, and he was presented with 2 Golden Globe Special Achievement Awards and Emmy Awards, other honors. Several of his films are induced in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. As it happens, he was a member of a Masonic Overshoot Youth Organization, and many of the founding fathers of the entertainment business, including Louis B. Mayer, Tom Mix, and Cecil B. DeMille were Masons. Okay, he was a 3rd-degree Mason of the Scottish Rite, and his whole life he has spun threads from the mystery schools into the children's minds, with the purpose of getting them used to the occult for days to come. Okay, he was a member of the Demole. Then you go in to see the article by Crow Answers. They probably Masons, okay, because they're trying to deny that he is one, saying they don't see the evidence that he's one, but you can practically see the pics. Okay, you're gonna see the pics of him being a whole Freemason in the elite game, wearing the robes and all the occult symbols. You're gonna see all that. Okay, so you know how Freemasons like to deny that they won. Okay, then you got the women and the fairy tale. Now, this is where it comes down to how the fairy tale is created. Let me see where I want to start off on that. Let's see. Something about Brothers Grimm. Okay, where did I wrote about Brothers Grimm? Let's see. Hold on, you guys. Okay, right here. It says, while writers like the Grimm brothers, who collected German tales, Pervert, and often Hans Christian Andersen are often the first authors named when discussing the history of fairy tales. Their origins ages back much further than that, though. The 17th century, and many of these stories are actually just retellings of age-old tales, many created by women and retold throughout history. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read about the women. Okay, this is where the witches come in. Women and the fairy tale. Women typically created fairy tales with a distant purpose in mind: to protest. Okay, to protest the societal constraints that were placed upon them, and to emphasize their own rights as women in man's world. Women like the Comtesse de Arnay and the Comtesse de Muret struck back at the misery of their marriages by creating and telling fairy tales that didn't always feature happy endings. Comtesse de Muret, in particular, appeared to enjoy shocking those who attended her informal gatherings. Okay. Where am I? Oh, okay. At Salon in Paris, in which she would captivate her listeners with tales of marriages and other topics. Throughout history, tales continue to be toxic. Wait, they say toxic or told? No, continue to be told and retold as women spend much of their time together, spinning, weaving, and sewing in a world where women were expected to remain silent. Their tales allowed them to create heroines that were strong and enabled them to pass on stories to their daughters and granddaughters that taught powerful lessons of conquering powerfully adversity and rewarding virtuousness. Okay, tracing history, it says some point to biblical times, cutting their evidence in Paul's warning to women to refrain from idle gossip, etc. Okay. While today parents love relating their favorite fairy tales to their own children, the dark and often gruesome plot lines of the original stories were intended for adult audiences, not young stars. Not youngsters, not youngsters. Okay, they are repeated today, date back to the 17th century. They said that they removed some of the more ghastly and frightening elements and to make them more appropriate for young audience, for younger artists. Okay, if you notice, most of these fairy tales are not appropriate still. Okay, they say they try to make them appropriate for younger artisans, but I'm going to get to it in a minute. They are not appropriate. Okay, the term fairy was thought to have been taken from the French contes de fées, and mainly of the fairy tales we read today are based tales from French literature, which often featured the ethereal creatures. Ethereal creatures. Woo! Okay. Now, there's another article. It's called The History of Witchcraft and Demology. Okay, this is where it gets deep here. It says, many modern writers, more skeptical, still frankly relegate the witch to the land of nursery tales and Christmas pantomime. She never had any real existence other than Cinderella's fairy godmother and the Comtesse d'Aulnay's Madame Murch. Okay. Now, you know they use witches craft all in these fairy tales, okay? A few authors have painted the medieval witch in a pretty colors on satin, trying to make her out to be a kindly old lady, shrewd and perspicacious, with a knowledge of healing herbs and simple ready to advise and aid her neighbors who are dirtier witted than she, disdain in return a rustic present of a flitch meal, a pulse, or eggs from the farmyard. She fell easy prey to fanatic judges and ravening inquisitors. Okay, notoriously the most ignorant and stupid of mortals, who caught her, swam her in a river, tried her, tortured her, and finally burned her at a stake. Okay, so this is what they try to make a witch seem nice. Okay, that's this Freemasonry game. That's the witches. That's how they try to do. Make light, try to make good evil good and evil good. That's how they always do. Okay, Madame d'Aulnay was born in Barneville-la-Breton in Normandy on 1650-1651, died in January 4, 1705. She was a member of the noble family of the Legion de Barneville. I think that's what I said. She was the niece of Marine Burdet's Lodges, who was the daughter of a French Protestant of the Huguenots. Okay, Huguenots. Okay, the Huguenots, if you look back at the Huguenot cross symbolism, you will see they represent the Satanic pentagram. Okay, the star pentagram. Okay, they are very French nobility. I'm going to get into that in a minute. It says Marie Bernardet's Lodges, the friend of Francis. She was the niece of the Marine Bernardet's Lodges, the friend of Frances de Marble, and of Jean-Louis Guz de Balzac, if I'm saying these names correctly, okay? With the dove, okay, the symbolism is with the dove upside down, which is blasphemous. If you were to see the star pentagram, you'll see the dove upside down, okay? So he's blaspheming the Holy Spirit, okay? He's a Satanist, okay? Her father was wealthy and moved to Paris when he became the secretary to the King Henry. I think that's the 4th or the 5th, but you'll see that, okay? That'll be the niece, actually. That'll be her niece. That was the king. She was the niece of Marine. Marine was father was wealthy and moved to Paris. Okay, was wealthy. Okay, they were wealthy. Period. This is one of them Satanic families. Okay, Madam was given at the age by her father in a arranged marriage of 15 years old to a Prussian is it Partian? I think I said Partian. Of 30 years older than her in 1866. Not 1866, in 1666, my bad. In 1666. Francis de la Motte, Baron d'Aulnay of the household of the Duke of Venom. He was a freethinker and known gambler. Okay, the Duke of Venom was a French nobility of the junior branch of the House of Bourbon, in which is a European royal house of French origin, a branch of the Captain dynasty, the royal house of France. Okay, so you can see as all this is in cahoot. I told you about these royals, these satanic royal families out here, and they all witches, they all demons. You know how this goes, okay? So you know this is who created most of the fairy tales, Madame. She's part of that satanic family. Okay, I'm gonna talk about Hansel and Gretel for a minute. Okay, we know all the cartoons. You'll see all the symbolisms of the Freemasonry game. You'll see that every cartoon has symbolism, and every cartoon has demonicness and witchcraft in it. Just like Mickey Mouse, when he did the magic and all that. We all know about Walt Disney and how he was a Freemason, how he was satanic and pimping the children out and loving a boy and all that kind of stuff, right? Now, when you get into the fairy tales like Hansel and Gretel too, it talks about a witch who likes to eat children, likes to eat Hansel, okay? So I'm going to read about that right quick. Fairy tale, it says a fairy tale film begins. Now, this is the film. Okay, I'm going to read about the film and then I'm going to read about the actual origin. The fairy tale film begins with the classic fairy tale, and abandoned by their father in a forest, a young Hansel and Gretel enter a gingerbread house and are captured by a cannibalistic witch. The witch forces Hansel to continuously eat sweets to fatten him up and enslaves Gretel. Okay. Now, the original Hansel and Gretel are the young children of a poor woodcutter. When a great famine settles over the land, the woodcutter's second abusive wife decides to take the children into the woods and leave them there to fend for themselves so that she and her husband do not starve to death because the kids eat too much. The woodcutter opposes the plan, but finally and reluctantly submits to his wife's scheme. Okay, now tell me, do that look like that's any less dark? To be honest, do that look like they're any less dark? They say they try to make them, less dark. Do that sound like it's any less dark? You leave your children out in the woods to fend themselves, to be captured by a witch. Still, she's trying to eat them. Trying to eat, okay? And enslaving them. Okay? Do that sound like any less dark to you? No, it does not. No, it does not. And these witches want to claim that it's less dark. It's okay. No, it's not okay. You know you evil. You know you wicked. You know that is wicked. Come on. Come on. Okay? So, I remember when I was looking at these nursery rhymes or fairy tales and cartoons, I would read them and I said, none of this is actually good for children. But they will still make it out to be for children. Why? Because they love to capture the kids. Of course, they say it's meant for the adults. But if you notice, why they keep telling it to the children, though? Why they keep doing it, though? Okay? Now, let's continue. I'm going to read from Isaiah 47, verse 8. Okay? Therefore, hear now this, that thou art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that says in thine heart, I am and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these two things shall come to thee in a moment one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments. For thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, and thou hast said, none seeth me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it hath perverted thee. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from hence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Stand now with thy enchantments, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Okay? Thou art wearied in multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the strategers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. Behold, thee shall be a stumble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame, they shall be, okay, that's procrastinators, I think that's what that says, okay, behold, no, not procrastinators, prognosticators, okay, I said it right, and save them from these things shall come upon thee, behold, they shall be as stumble, the fire shall burn them, they shall not deliver themselves from the power of the flame, they shall not be a cold to warm at, nor to sit before it. Thus shall there be unto thee, with whom thou hast labored, even thy merchants from thy youth. They shall wander every one to this quarter, none shall save thee. Okay. If I said that wrong, y'all, please correct me. But, as you can see, the loss of children. God is talking to these enchanters, these sorcerers, these witches. Okay? This widowhood, this witch. Okay? Now, you know these people are going to be suffering because of them going against God and doing this type of stuff against his holy name. Okay? Let's go to Leviticus. So these fairy tales, they are not, I'm telling you, I wouldn't tell these fairy tales to the children. Now, I would probably say to only tell them about how the fairy tales are demonic, okay, to make them distinguish what's good from what's evil. But I would not tell them like that, like it's okay to, acknowledge that it's good, because it's not. It's not. None of these fairy tales are good. None of these cartoons are good. None of it. Okay. Leviticus 19:31. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God. Okay. 26. And the soul that returneth after such as has familiar spirits and after wizards to go horn after them, I will even set my face against that soul and will cut him off from among his people. Okay. Let's go to 2 Kings 21:6. 21:6. And he made his son pass through the fire and observed times and used enchantments and dealt with familiar spirits of wizards. He wrought wickedness in the sight of the Lord to provoke him to anger. Okay. Let's go to Revelation 22:5-15. Is it Revelation 22? No, Revelation 22:15. My bad. Okay. Here we go. For without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever loveth and make it a lie. Okay. Let's go to Acts 16:16. Okay. And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters, which gained by soothsaying. The same followed Paul, and us cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High, and God, which shew unto us the way of salvation. And this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And he came out of the same hour. That's how we must do. Okay? That's how we must do. Let's go to Acts 13. You must command these spirits to come out of them. Acts 13:8-10. But Elymas, the sorcerer, for so he is the name by interpretation, withstood them, seeking to turn away the deputy from the faith. Then Saul, who also is called Paul, filled with the Holy Ghost, set his eyes on him, and said, O full of all subtlety and all mischief, thou child of the devil, thou enemy of all righteousness, will thou not cease to pervert the right ways of the Lord? Okay. So this is, and now behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thee, and thou shalt be blind, not seeing the sun for a season. And immediately there fell on him a mist and a darkness, and he went above, seeking some to lead him by the hand. Okay. This is what we must do to these witches. Okay. 1919. Many of them also which used curious arts brought their books together and burned them before all men, and they counted the price of them and found 50,000 pieces of silver. Curious arts of men. That's what they said. Many of them also brought curious arts, brought their books together. Okay? Curious art books and burned them before all the men. Okay? Curious art books. Okay? I'm going to stop right there, but I'm going to show some more scriptures about that. But, people, these witches are using cartoons and fairy tales to lure children into their trap, to get them to like cult satanic things, to worship Satan. This is why they do it. Okay? So, only teach your children in the mission of the Lord Jesus Christ, so they can be trained up to be taught that from a young age. Do not teach these children witchcraft. Okay? Because they're going to want to be doing that from a young age. Okay? Always seek this word here, people, and no other. Okay? Do not teach them any other Hansel and Gretel for teaching that stuff about eating children. That's gruesome. Okay? Only this should be taught. Jesus Christ is God.